experienced any blackouts, stretches of time that you can't account for?
I roam for eternity, said the dead.
Yeah, you're gonna love this one. It's a scream, baby.
What's the matter with you people? I was joking! Don't you know it's a joke when you hear one?
Welcome back, everyone, to another Lost Log episode. This is your Captain Jose Valle Jr., joined by Mr. Mason Schrader, co-host, first officer, celebrity chef, joining us. And
honestly, your soup's fucking shit.
Oh.
Listen, cook it better, and I won't complain. But
I'm trying.
cook like shit.
I'm trying my
Well,
hardest.
You're not. I mean, I've seen.
I can only do so much with ramen.
Well, ramen, more like. Man, this is fucking garbage. Stick and move. I haven't hit the Gordon level, like Ramsay level
Yeah.
of quips yet, so
It's okay. You gotta. It comes with earning with every Michelin star that you get.
Mm-hmm.
You get the quippiness. So because Gordon has so many, that's why he's so good at
Does
it.
he have a lot?
I don't probably.
How many Michelin stars does Gordon?
Probably 4,
Ramsay
right?
have?
I bet 4 is like the most you can get.
You get that? Now we gotta look it up.
Yeah, Gordon Ramsay, Michelin stars, or maybe restaurants get the Michelin stars. Is what I'm. He's got 16
got restaurants. Holy shit!
Michelin stars.
Well, I don't know, because this says it's 16, but then right
Then it
below
says
that
7.
it says 7.
Yeah.
He's been awarded 16
But
throughout his career. He currently
sevens.
holds 7. You can
Damn.
lose them?
He lost. That's
He's
9.
lost more stars than he has.
Wow, Gordon Ramsay's a nobody nowadays.
Talk
huh?
about the fall off.
Yeah, wow. He really, yeah. Well, anyway, this has been Chef Talk with Jose and Mason. If you're
Honestly, I hope I get on one of his shows now so he can try to be a dick to me. And I'm gonna fucking... I can throw that back in his face
throw
so
that
fast.
in, he's just gonna be right.
He's gonna be absolutely
Okay.
forward.
Fuck me, Michelin stars. Right.
Yeah, you've lost more than you have, Gordon.
He's got the little towel and he's slowly pulling it off his shoulder and he's like, right, okay, fuck me, right, got me, that hurt.
Yeah,
He's just-
fuck you.
And then he
pal.
just breaks
How about
down,
that one?
and
Yeah.
that's like what finally pushes him over the edge, and you destroy
Oh,
Gordon
now I feel
Ramsay.
bad. You know, he's got a kid. He seems pretty cool.
He's got a couple kids. He seems
yeah,
like a
he's
cool
got a couple
dad.
kids. Honestly, if he's as half a good a dad as he is a chef, he's probably a pretty good dad.
Yeah. Have you seen how he is with the kids? Like
I've seen his TikToks. They seem
Yeah,
cool.
I love seeing like the where it's like this is how Gordon Ramsay is with like the adult chefs on his shows, and he's like, brutal. And then with the kids,
then he's like,
"Hey, it's
yeah.
all right. Yeah.
Hey, yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna be a good chef. It's not good yet, but you're gonna get it. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like that. Yeah. Anyway, are we doing a podcast? Or,
Yeah. Well, welcome back, everyone. Again, I said that. I mean, if this is your first time joining us on a Lost Log, if you've never listened to a Lost Log episodes, there are more chillax episodes. We take a look at a topic. We're just really having a conversation, even much more so than usual. Not scripted, just telling stories, just pals being pals. Today, because we're always doing spooky shit, but we're definitely
True.
we're what's the word I'm looking for?
We're
Hunkering
in our
down.
element now.
Yeah, because it's
Hunkering down?
Spooktober. Is that right? Am I using the right? Maybe hunkering down's not the right. Mason's got a knife for the.
I don't have a knife.
The
I'm just-
audio listeners.
Hey, don't be a snitch.
But today we are going to be taking a look at strange encounters in the woods. So yeah,
Hell
we're going to be. I've compiled a list of stories here from the interwebs, and I will be sharing them with Mason. And we're trying something different with the vibe. Sorry.
Where we slap our microphones around like
That's
assholes.
a constant thing that happens on this podcast.
It is.
Just constantly
That's our
like-
calling card is slapping our microphones on accident.
But we're going to be trying something different. Normally, I just kind of read them verbatim to Mason. But today, it's like we're two pals in a bar, and you're being an asshole and you're eavesdropping on me telling a story to Mason. So that's the
To
mood,
another
everyone.
asshole who
Yeah.
didn't want to hear the story in the first
You know,
place.
I saw a TikTok that was like, there's always the asshole, like the friend groups where it's like the asshole friend or like the meaner friend and then the nice guy, and it's like those friendships work because a lot of the time the asshole friend is actually like
Very
the
nice.
nice guy,
And
and
the
then
nice
the
guy's
nice guy is
kind of an
actually kind
asshole.
of an asshole, and I will let
Yeah.
everyone decide which is which.
I saw that exact same TikTok, and yeah,
Yeah.
I'm the nice one. I mean, not to you or to a lot of people, but like I feel like I'm more likely to, if you call me and say you need a ride while I'm asleep, I'll go do it. I
Yeah.
feel like you just wouldn't wake up. So that's another classic from the vault of weirdly obscure insults Mason does that somehow really cut to the bone.
that hurt. That really hurt. I feel like you're a piece of shit, Jose. You wouldn't help out a friend in need.
I didn't say that though. I just
No,
feel
but
like
you basically
I
did.
feel
It's
like I
fine.
feel like you wouldn't make a conscious decision. I just feel like you wouldn't wake. You're the type of guy that wouldn't wake up.
I will admit there have been times when friends call me when I'm cozy in bed and they're like, "Hey, can you help?" It's like 2 a.m. They're like, "I need help with something." And I'm like,
Actually, I don't even know why I'm talking shit.
and I make up so many excuses.
I sleep with do not disturb on. So never mind. Scratch all that. I wouldn't even get your phone call until I wake up at 7. So
Nice.
also, you'll have to excuse my voice. I was at the Iowa Penn State football game, a humble brag, on Saturday, just to date it, and fuck, I screamed a lot.
All right, guys. So let's get started then, Mason. Are you ready to? I think I assembled a pretty decent list. So are you ready to get
Hell
into
yeah.
some, at least at the very least, stories that'll make you go, whoa. Or next time you're in the woods, think about it as you're going to sleep in your tent. You're like, fuck.
Hell yeah, let's do it.
All right. So our first story, Mason, comes to us a courtesy of Rep143 from the website Reddit. Don't know if you've ever heard of it. So basically the story goes like this. A man and his wife and his daughter and their 2 dogs, they're going out camping in Oregon, sort of north of Mount Jefferson. And even within the story, he includes like coordinates of the campsite. And it was just a really good setup for both of them because with their dogs, they like to have the privacy, which I understand. Like going camping is a hassle now that I have a dog because it's like you can't just go to like the normal campsites. Yeah, because they're barking at everything and like people always want to pet your dog, and I understand that, but sometimes it's like my dog doesn't want to be pet by you right now because he doesn't fucking know you, and he's gonna. Anyway.
Honestly, there's no worse American cultures than those that are at those campsites where you're right next to everybody.
Yeah. I also
so
I just hate, if
bad.
I want to go. I feel like when I go camping, I want to be alone. You know what I mean? With
absolutely.
whoever I'm. And I like to drink when I'm camping, and then there's always that asshole that like walks by and you're like, you shouldn't be drinking because there's children. I don't give a fuck about your kids. What? I'm not gonna.
To a state park here in Iowa that it's like they have a bunch of youth groups and shit there, and like I don't know, you know, camp kids, right?
Yeah.
Not like church camp kids, but
No,
like kids
no,
that
yeah, I know.
are at campgrounds that just walk
Yeah.
around the campground,
Yeah.
and then like approach your
Yep.
camp group and
Yep.
start talking to you. And we had a kid come out and he was like, "I'm a Catholic. My mom's 34 and my dad's 86." Verbatim, said that. And I was in my tent, right? And he was talking
I'm a Catholic.
to a friend of Nick.
I'm
Friend
gonna
of the
start. I'm
podcast.
gonna start introducing myself like that.
And so, like, I unzip my tent halfway, and I'm, like, staring at his girlfriend, like, what the fuck is happening right now? And he just keeps talking and talking. And then also one time I was starting a fire, and a kid came over to tell me that he was a Boy Scout and that I was starting the fucking fire wrong. And I don't know if you've ever had to start. I don't know if you're the guy in the friend group that's the dedicated fire starter. I don't know if you've had somebody come up and start heckling you while you
Yep.
try to start a
Yup.
fucking fire. But it
It's
is the
the
most
absolute
infuriating
fucking- yeah,
thing
yeah.
in the world.
That's funny because both of those kids could have been me. I was a Boy Scout and I was raised Catholic, so maybe they were just little remnants of my spirit still out there.
They were fucking pieces of shit.
A little fucking kid being like, "You're building the fire wrong."
He was like, "I'm a Boy Scout. They said you gotta build fires
I'm
like
a Boy
this. We got
Scout.
it
He's got the
started."
fucking salute.
And it was raining. And I'm like, okay, well, it's raining. And he's like, we used lighter fluid. And I'm like, okay, well, one,
then
I don't
that's,
have lighter
that's
fluid.
first off, that's cheating.
Two, cheater then,
Cheater.
right? Because isn't
Yeah.
it weird that I could start it without it, but you couldn't then? It kind of almost seems like I'm better at, but obviously I can't get into an argument with this child because I'm a grown-up and he's a child.
Yeah.
God, I wanted to punch that kid in the face so badly.
Yeah, that's my favorite thing is, when you're trying to start a fire and you don't have lighter fluid and your friend's like, well, this would be easier if we just had lighter fluid. It's like, yeah.
It'd be easier
It
if I
would.
could just make fire with my fucking hands like I was a firebender.
Be
But
easy-
I'm not.
but I'm not.
Okay? You know what doesn't help get the fire started is goddamn hypotheticals right now, okay? That's not making this easier.
So just to reiterate, it's a man and his daughter and his wife and their 2 dogs. They're at this sort of like secluded, nice little spot. It's not like an established campsite, but it's a little like pull off kind of thing that had like a makeshift fire pit. And so the first night there, they start setting up their camp, and the dad sets up like the main tent that the whole family's gonna sleep in, kind of a bigger tent. And their daughter's like, hey, you know what? Which I understand this. It's like, you don't want to sleep with your mom and dad. She's like, hey, could I just take the 2-man tent that we have and set that up just next to you guys, just sleep by myself? And the dad's like, yeah, sure, but take one of the dogs in there with you, so you're not in there by yourself. And he has her take one of the dogs, who they call Guts. It's very.
That's a pretty good name for a dog.
Yeah. And so it's a German Shepherd. So first night there, they can't sleep. Him and his wife. They're hearing like heavy footsteps. So like he talks about in the setup to the story that he's like a very experienced backpacker, and so he's got a lot of time out there. He knows what little critters sound like, but this sounds like something heavy. Which, when you're out in the woods, you can tell the difference between something just scampering on the leaves and then something like genuinely walking, right? Because it just sounds And so
You don't have to be a professional backpacker to be able to tell the difference between a squirrel and not a squirrel.
I'm pretty sure you do. And you know who would say that? People who aren't professional backpackers.
I'm a professional backpacker.
Oh, no way. You got your certification. Oh, yeah. You got your license.
REI sent me an email and said, hi, Mason. I'm a member of the REI co-op, so...
Wow.
Are you?
Yes. So...
You fucking liar.
So,
I know everybody in the op. That's what people who are in the co-op call it. We call it the op.
The op.
I mean, you wouldn't know because you're obviously not a part of it, but like we call it the op. It's kind of like slang. It's like whatever. Yeah. Like hiking, biking, fishing, whatever you're into. The ops guy.
Yeah. So he was also armed. The dad. He'd brought I think he'd brought at least one handgun. I don't know if he'd brought other guns.
I hope we would have brought 2 arms.
And the reason is because he'd recently read about a dad in California who was shot and killed in a tent next to his 2 infant daughters. So so he had 2 pistols and a rifle
the
with him.
infant daughters that killed him?
Yes, it was later discovered.
I never trust babies.
And so his both of his dogs are good at like detecting things, and that's why especially Guts, and that's why he had Guts sleep with his daughter. He's like completely fearless.
Right.
And
as implied by the name Guts.
Yeah. So anyway, the first night though, all it is just kind of bad vibes, loud footsteps, which he ultimately decides like because the dogs aren't barking and they're not waking up, he's like, it's probably not a bear, it's probably not a cougar or something, it's probably like an elk, it's probably something harmless that even the dogs are like, we don't need to freak out about this. So he doesn't give it a second thought. He's like kind of weird, but whatever. Next morning, they don't find any evidence of anything walking through the camp, so again, he's kind of at ease at this point. They decide to go for a walk, and they're going down the road, like basically like on the main road from where their camp you would turn off to go to their camp. And about like 300 feet away, he sees an abandoned road where a rusted gate post was sort of covered in vegetation. And so like something down it catches his eye, and then immediately Guts starts taking off in the direction of like the thing that caught his eye. And so he like starts freaking out because he's like, shit, like it's somebody hiking or camping out here. This big German Shepherd is going to run up on them and it's going to be trouble. So he runs after the dog.
I mean, but you shouldn't. I mean, you shouldn't have your dog off a leash if you think your
No.
dog's gonna.
Yeah, if you
bite
think your
somebody.
dog is going to be problematic, you shouldn't. But
No,
well,
fuck this guy.
but he runs down though, yelling after the dog, and he's yelling like, "Hey, sorry about the dog!" Like he's just gets excited, like he won't bite or anything. He's
I
friendly.
know it seems like he's gonna rip your throat out, but
But he
it's
just
like,
wants to
it's-
hug.
Don't worry.
That's the thing about big dogs is it's always like that. You know what I mean? Like they'll fucking jump on you and basically pin you down, and the owner's like, "Oh, he's just playful." It's like, fuck. How the fuck am I supposed to know that? I don't know the dog.
Yeah, right.
Big dog
Oh,
just
yeah,
ran up on me. Well, anyway, so the dog goes though, and he stops about 20 feet from like where this campsite is. And as he's shouting out, he's grabbed the dog by his collar, but no one, like he's like, "Hey, sorry," but he like sees that like no one's around, but there's like coolers and like camp gear around. There's a tent. So he's like, "Oh, they must just not be here. Like whoever's at this campsite, maybe they're out." But then he kind of curiosity gets the better of him, so he kind of starts looking around and he's like, "Hang on, something's off here." So he starts like investigating the campsite. It had a cooler, propane burner, tent, blankets,
What kind of
folding
tent?
table. It doesn't specify.
What kind of tent?
Doesn't specify.
It says an expensive REI tent.
Does it really?
Yeah.
Where?
It says anyone would leave all their camping gear behind, including an expensive REI tent.
Wow. Okay. I didn't see.
You probably didn't because you're not in the op.
Fuck. I've been found out.
Yeah.
So yeah, but he sees that all of this stuff though, now that he's like getting closer, has been destroyed, and there's like claw marks all around. And yeah, like Mason said, he's kind of confused as to like why someone would leave all this expensive gear
But
behind.
it didn't come across that maybe they're also just on a walk.
Well,
Like
no.
he was just like, they definitely abandoned this shit.
Well, yeah, because all the stuff that's laid around the campsite is destroyed, and it's been ripped up with like claw
Oh.
marks. And the
Well,
thing,
then they probably left it because it'd been destroyed.
maybe. But the thing that spooked him is the propane tank is completely flattened. Like the propane tank, like something just stomped on it, and the same thing with the cooler. And
Maybe they did a keg stand.
maybe
On
on
the
a
propane
fucking propane tank, yeah. And so they kind of get out of there after that, and as the afternoon comes around, him and his daughter are around the fire. They're just doing campsite shit, and then his wife needs to go to the bathroom, so she goes about 70 feet outside of their camp to go do her business. So once she gets out of like sight, though, once she gets within far enough from the campsite, he can't really see her, but he's like, whatever. Like he doesn't really have anything to worry about at this point. Suddenly, his wife, as she is going to the bathroom, she like gets this feeling that she needs to get out of there, and she stands up and she runs. And
Yeah, I've had that. I've taken that type of shit before. Where you're just like, I gotta get out of here, man. I'm sweaty. I hate this. I just gotta get out of here.
And
get
she she runs she's running towards the campsite. The dog Guts gets up and he's running towards her, and the husband's like, "Whoa, what the hell's going on?" So he gets up and he's running after the dog. Guts goes past her though and into the forest. When he catches up to his wife, he's like, "What's going on?" She like explains like, "I don't know. I just felt like there was like something watching me and I needed to get out of there." And then when I saw Guts running towards me, like
Confirmed her
yeah.
beliefs that there was something
Yeah.
scary behind her. Okay.
And so the husband draws his pistol and he goes into the he tells her to go stay back at the campsite with her daughter and the other dog, and he goes in to look for Guts. So he goes in, and then they spend a good amount of time though looking around for signs of anything. They didn't see any trails. They didn't see any broken branches. Where around the wife had gone to the bathroom. So like there wasn't anything there. He's weirded out though because there's been like things are kind of like little bits are happening, and he's like, So they want to get out of there, but it's late, and so they're like, okay, first thing in the morning, we'll pack, we'll get out of here.
Okay, that's bullshit. If it's that bad, first off, especially when you're camping, I mean, because did they pack in, or is this like right next to the car? Because it sounds like they're right next to their car, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, it doesn't matter. Whatever. Anyway, the point is, if this ever happens, you leave your shit, go sleep in the car for the night, and then, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I've done
just
that.
sleep
Yeah,
in the car, and then you
yeah.
can go get your shit.
So, well, anyway, so they're all going to be sleeping in the big tent, and before he goes to bed, though, he decides to set up a tripwire. So he gets some rope. He's going to do it around the entire, like,
What is this
campsite.
guy, a fucking Marine?
Sure.
He's gonna set up a tripwire?
Yeah. And so he uses, like, some cans and coins and stuff, and, like, puts it on the
He's going
rope.
full Rambo.
Full Rambo. Anyway, here's the weird part. Right as he's about to do it, he notices that someone has already done the same thing. He finds a tripwire that had been previously set up around the perimeter of the campsite, but had been cut. So that's why he hadn't noticed it, because it was laying down on the ground, right? And as
So
he's
he's
about to
been there
tie
before.
his... Maybe. But he's about to tie his, he realizes that somebody else was also in this area, felt worried enough that they also had to do a similar thing because of the noises or whatever was happening in the woods. And
Sure.
so after this, he's spooked, and he decides to fire around into the dirt to just sort of spook whatever's around, to make sure that they know that he's
Classic.
armed. Yeah.
That's the move in Predator, too, when he gets the machine gun and he just fucking fires old painless into the woods just 'cause,
Yeah.
like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going full, what's his name from, is it Dutch?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dutch.
Yeah, it does.
And,
You son of a bitch.
come, get me, I'm here. Remember when he's
They got you pushing too many pins.
That's
remember
my
when he's,
favorite line in that whole thing.
I love the bit where they meet up. And
Yeah,
then
they do the
that.
meme.
Yeah, they do the strongman
handshake.
handshake. You son of a bitch.
Too many pencils. Nah.
So he goes back to his wife and daughter. He assures them that things are gonna be fine or whatever. And then that night they don't hear any footsteps. The dogs never perk up or bark, and they leave early the next morning. So he talks about how at the end of the story, how as he was writing the story, he watched the Missing 411 documentary, and he notices that the cluster. When he notices that there was like a cluster of disappearances around where they were, and all he can think of, like, he gets this sort of like flood of dread as he like thinks about the fucked up campsite that he found. He says, like, yeah, they've been camping since, but they haven't gone back to that spot because it just always stuck with them. And he's glad that they had Guts with them, who was so attentive. And he never found out what it was, but he was definitive that something was out there watching him and his family, and something may have attacked those people who were at that campsite. And
I doubt
hopefully they got away, but maybe they didn't.
I doubt it. I don't think it's true. I think this is bullshit. I don't think that happened.
That was posted in the Missing 411 subreddit.
What is Missing 411?
So Missing 411 is a book that was written by a detective who, I'm trying to find what his name is. It's a book series written by David Paulides that chronicles unsolved yet very similar disappearances of 5 children in the woods of North America across multiple decades. So, and now it's become this sort of phenomenon of, like, there's all these disappearances happening in national parks, and yeah, sometimes it is because they're just big pieces of area, but they're strange and they're unsolved, and a lot of them are unexplainable. So now Missing 411 has become sort of this umbrella term, this
Gotcha.
blanket term for, like, strange disappearances within America's natural parks. It's very interesting. There's a lot of super interesting stuff there. It's scary, man. We talked about it before. Like, disappearances like that creep me the fuck out. Where
Yeah, like
it's
the
just,
Yarba guys.
Yeah.
Have you heard that one? Mm-hmm. Anyway. Okay.
So, okay, our next one comes to us from I'm Jonesy from the Occult Museum. And so there's a story about him and some friends. They're out there doing some night fishing on the James River. They're sitting along the shoreline, just having like an ice fire going. They're just talking, having a few beers. Honestly, sounds like a fucking vibe. God, I need to go camping. It's been a minute. And all of a sudden, everyone just stops talking. Like the conversation just dies down, almost like if a switch went off. And they're all kind of sitting there, like they feel the vibe is off. You know, those moments where you're like,
Sure.
something's weird.
It happens constantly.
And all of a sudden, they all turn their attention across the river, and they all just kind of feel like something or someone is staring back at them. And you know, I think I mentioned, right, they're doing night fishing, so it's dark out. There's not enough moonlight that it can illuminate it, so they can only really see the perimeter around the fire, but past that, it's complete darkness.
You're saying it's like nighttime.
Yeah, but you know how sometimes when the moon is fuller, you can still see around with moonlight.
Like when it hits your eye, like a big pizza pie.
Anyway,
Is that what you're
so
talking
all of a sudden, like they're staring across, right, and they're like, it's fucking weird. The vibe is off. And then one of them like tries to make a joke or whatever to lighten things up again, and all of a sudden a blood curdling sound just erupts from the other shore, and everyone just freezes. And this sound, it's not like any other that they had heard, and it makes like every hair on their body just bristle, and they're all like fucking spooked. And the guy describes it as it sounded like a wild person with no language skills being gutted alive. Like it wasn't like
a mountain lion.
Yeah, maybe.
You know,
yeah,
they scream.
Yeah.
Mountain lions
Yeah.
scream.
But
Probably much like a wild person who can't talk.
yeah, and
'Cause,
so
you know, they can't.
And so he says, like, there's no words. It's just this high-pitched, blood-curdling scream. Nobody's moving. Nobody's saying a word. They're all just sitting there fixed in their stare. When all of a sudden, a second scream is let loose with even more force than the first. And by this point, like, a bunch of them, they're sprinting to their trucks that are parked, like, you know, like 20 or 30 feet from them. And because they're country bumpkins, they're grabbing their firearms, and they're, like, sitting there, like, ready to fucking, I don't know, shoot this person that's being murdered? Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
But they all sit there, though, quietly, with their eyes just staring at the opposite shore, just watching the light reflect off the rocks from their fire, because they can't see past that point. And then they sit there for a while until finally they just are like, it doesn't happen again. So they just get up and leave, and ride back. They're feeling, like, unsettled and just fucking confused, because they don't know what it was, and you know, like it was just out of nowhere. It didn't happen again, and it was just boom, one thing done and over, and they never figured out what it was, and they never even could like hazard a guess as to what it was, but it left them shook up, and it definitely ruined their night.
Well, sounds fucking stupid. I think it was a mountain lion. I think it was obviously a mountain lion.
It's still scary, though. You're telling me you're fucking camping, a mountain lion is screaming, I don't know, what, 100 feet away from you, and you're like...
On the other side of a river or a large body of water? Yeah. What are they going to do, swim after me?
Yes.
I'll beat the shit out of it. It gets over here. By the time it gets over to my side of the river, it's tired and wet, and I'm beating the shit out of it. No question.
You are overestimating your ability.
Worst case scenario is what? I die? Fucking alright, bring it on. I guess what? I got nothing to lose then. I'll beat the shit out of that mountain lion. Fucking put it in a chokehold. Choke the shit out of a mountain lion. I'm not saying straight up mountain lion I'd win in a fight. I'm saying you give me a knife.
Tired, wet,
and you
mountain
make
lion?
it swim. You make it swim a decent 300 feet.
Yeah.
I'm saying we're both coming out of that fight fucked up.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the very least, I think both of us are dying.
Catch The Revenant 2 starring Mason Schrader in theaters next summer.
It's just me shithoused fighting a mountain lion with a knife and a beer bottle. Just absolutely fucking hammered. Just being like, you fucking come at me. You fucking come at me. And it's like, ah! And I'm like, back at you, bitch. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Our next story comes from Eben HSHD, also from the Occult Museum. And this is a story about a dad and a son who are going hunting, camping/hunting. So the writer was around 14 when this happened. And his dad, he has this rich friend who has this huge plot of land. Like insanely big, and he would let people hunt out there. For our video watchers, there's
For money.
Zuko the pod dog digging his nails into my fucking arm.
Well, he's excited. He cares about the story. He wants to go camping too.
Yeah, that's what he's telling me. Get out of here. So anyway, so he lets them go out there and hunt if like his buddies, and he lets him and his dad go out there. Truth is, like, the father and son, they really just like spending the time out in nature more than hunting. So they're out there for the excuse of hunting, but really they're just fucking around and camping. Like, they just wanted to be out there and they like being outdoorsy woodsmen. And so they get up one early morning and they hike into the woods. And it's still dark when they get to our stand. Our stand. I was there with them. And they don't see or hear anything, not even birds. And that's what, like, unsettles them right from the beginning, is that these woods are eerily quiet. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that. There's nothing fucking creepier than you're in the woods and all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, I can't, there's no noise.
Was it like Christmas time?
Because all the
Not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse?
Actually, this is the night before Christmas. So
that's what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But honestly, who's the biggest cryptid if not Santa Claus?
Anyway, they don't see anything, though, so they're frustrated. They pack up. They go look for a spot to camp. They go deeper and deeper into the suggestion of the dad because he thinks maybe they'll get a better chance of seeing something. Because the dad thinks, like, well, like, this is a piece of land that people don't come around. So maybe, like, as soon as the animals realize that we were around, they are, like, scattering. They're like, oh, shit. Like, there's something, like, the animals were just like, people don't come out here. So as soon as people come out here, they're already like, fuck. They know what's up.
Sure.
And so they hike for a few hours. They find a clearing. They set up camp. They get settled. Also, one thing that I forgot to mention was to get onto the property, there was only one entrance. It was like one of those like gate, like key things to get in or whatever. Because the whole property is completely fenced off. Yeah, it's like a huge plot of land, but he's got it fenced off because it's private property.
With like what kind of fence though?
I don't know. Like, have you never seen property like that? I mean, there's a bunch of different properties out in Utah.
It's normally just like 2 strands of barbed wire. That's very easily just negated.
No, there's. I think it's one of those higher end ones because there's some out in like the canyons in Utah where like it'll be like the uber rich people that own them and they're like chain link fences. And they've got
no, I legitimately have never seen
gates
like big like wooded areas with like crazy.
I hate it.
2 strands of barbed wire with just like shitty posts between them.
But so I'm assuming it's one of those. If it has a gate code, I'm assuming it's got to be because I don't think they'd have a gate.
Well, that's
and
why I
just
thought it was
barbed
weird
wire.
they'd have a gate code anyway because it would just be like you could just like walk around. But all right.
It's like, but anyway, so they find this clearing, they set up right. They get back and because they set up the camp and then they decide to keep going out and looking for deer to hunt or whatever. They get back and they realize they notice that their tent has been pulled and laid flat, like the middle, like the main thing, like they just pulled up one of the poles and because it'll just if you do that to a tent. So it seems like somebody just did that, and it's not like in a neat way. It's just kind of laying there. And they're thinking, fuck, did we like not set up the tent right? Was it the wind? But they were pretty sure that they had set it up. So the dad is like, you must have just set it up wrong. You know, dad's always fucking blaming you. And your dad's like, you're not good for anything.
Are you okay, Jose?
So anyway, they settle in for the night. They build a fire and they're just relaxed. Again, it's the woods are still eerily quiet. Like not even birds are making any sounds. And the guy, the writer remembers thinking how odd it is that this deep in the woods, they're only hearing like 1 or 2 birds for the whole trip. So they go to sleep after they put out their fire, they settle in, they go to sleep. It's pitch black, middle of the night, and he wakes up for some reason, and he tries to go back to sleep. And he's like in that that half awake, half asleep phase where you're like, you know what I'm talking about, where you like wake up in the middle of the night.
Do you get the audio hallucinations when you're in that?
No, that's fucking
Is
sleep
that just
paralysis.
me? I get constant when I'm like in that like thing where I get constant. Like I know they're not real things, but like I definitely like I can hear something like very clearly, like someone's a different voice, and it's like I don't have any control over it. I didn't consciously call something up, but I'll hear just like random shit, like people talking, But I know this is sounding. It's not.
Are you schizophrenic?
It's not.
And the
as crazy.
voices, they're telling me to do things.
It's no, because they never tell me to do anything. They always are just. Sometimes it's just people calling my name. Other times it's just random shit.
Mason.
Sometimes it's just quotes from
Mason.
like it's like lines from movies or songs that I know that like I can hear I can hear the
Deep,
actor
deep
saying
boat.
it. Anyway,
PT boat on the way to Havana.
yeah, honestly, shit like that sometimes, and I hear it, and it's like
Are you talking about sleep paralysis? Do you get sleep paralysis? Is that what this is?
No, I can move, but it's in
Wow,
that, you're in like, so it's like you like just, you know what I mean? Like you're just about to fall asleep. You're in that kind of state where you can
Yes,
get like,
no,
where
yeah, I know what you
where
mean.
you jolt
Yeah,
yourself
yeah,
awake really
yeah,
easily.
Yeah.
And so you just have,
I don't
so your brain's
hear
caught,
things, but
like,
I just have like, I do want. For me, it's like, I have just incoherent thoughts where I'm like, what the fuck was like? I think
Yeah,
about something and I catch myself. I'm like, what?
yes, it's that thing where you dip in and out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have, when I dip out of it, a lot of times I have like audio
Wow.
hallucinations where I hear things, but then I'll come back into like regular consciousness and be like, obviously that didn't happen. I just heard, like, 'cause it's just weird shit. You know what I mean?
Mason, it's me, George
No, it's
Harrison.
not. It's never like it's
I
us,
need
the
you.
Beatles. Look at us, we're in your head. That never happens. It's more just
Whoa,
like
the yellow submarine. It's your head.
it's more just like, hey, what's going on? And I'm like, that was a person I knew. And then, but anyway, it's fine. I don't know. Is that a thing? Now I'm fucking. Goddamn it.
You should talk to
How have you
someone.
done this to me? Yeah, well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons I should.
Yeah. So anyway, so he's half
Anywho-sy.
asleep, half awake, and then all of a sudden he hears laughter. So maybe this guy's like you, Mason, and he kind of jolts awake.
That honestly,
Because
that
he's
is
like-
the exact same shit that happens to me. I just
Yeah.
I know that it's not real.
Well, he jolts away because he's like, what the fuck? And he sits up and he doesn't hear it. So he's like, you know what? Probably just imagine that. Probably like as I was falling asleep, my brain was like, yeah, haha, funny. And so he lays back down. A few minutes later, though, he hears it again, and it.
Is it James Corden?
What?
Is James Corden into the woods with him?
Yeah. He's
Okay, it's common.
He's humping in his little rat costume.
Oh god, that was so.
I
upsetting.
hated that. Why did he do that? Imagine if I
Okay.
was late to school that day because of fucking James Corden holding up traffic.
It's a thing that happens before you fall asleep. It's very common. It's more common when you're under stress. But according to Healthline, it's a common thing.
I gave Mason a strange enough look that I worried him that he was perhaps insane that he had to look this up in the middle of the podcast.
These hallucinations are more common when a person is under stress. Most common auditory hallucinations are simple and don't have any real meaning or purpose. This can include beeping, high-pitched noises, random noises, popping noises, unclear noises. Severe cases of anxiety may produce more complex hallucinations. They may
Mason, just
involve
stop.
voices, which are sometimes
Oh, no,
associated
buddy.
with rabbit thoughts. Okay, that's a little worrying. That part was a little more worrying than I thought that it may have needed to be.
This is one of those things where like in a TV show a character's like, I know this place like the back of my hand, and then they're like, oh my god, what is that? And then or like they're at the doctor and the doctor's like, yeah, we found a mole. Don't worry though, it's not cancerous. I mean, it is concerning, and then they just tune out everything. And they're like, oh my god, I'm going to die. That's what that just felt like. Like I witnessed that for
thought
you.
I have thought for years. 23 years, not all the, since these started, which I don't remember when.
Since you
I
gained
have-
consciousness around like 3 or 4 years old.
I have thought that everybody had voice audio hallucinations before sleeping and assumed that was the most normal fucking thing in the world. It doesn't sound like it's super abnormal.
You're a freak. So he lays back down, right, because he thought it was a dream. All of a sudden it happens again. And it continues, and it's getting pretty loud. So he wakes up, but this time his dad is awake too. And he whispers to him, and he's like, did you hear that? And that's when, like, the writer is fucking scared. Because he's like, shit, this is real. Like, I'm not imagining it. I am hearing laughter for real out here in the middle of the fucking woods.
It's like
And-
when I wake up Cheyenne and I'm like, did you hear that? And she says no, and I'm like, whoo.
Yeah.
But then one
But
time
it's the
she's like,
opposite.
yes, and I'm like, fuck. And then I have
Yeah.
to get up and look at stuff.
Yep. So it wasn't a dream, and they're both just sitting there listening, but it starts to get faint again. And now that he's actually awake and listening to it, it sounds faint. And it sounded like, the strange thing is, though, that it sounds like it's coming from all around them, like several people laughing together in unison. Just, It's not cackling hysterical laughter, just like normal laughter, just like because it doesn't last more than 5 or 6 seconds each, but it's continuously around them. So it's just like
I like to think it's Kawhi Leonard's laugh. You remember when Kawhi Leonard laughed, the basketball player, and he was like, it's like that.
And then all of a sudden it just ends. And they don't hear it anymore, but they didn't get any sleep. They stay up all night, and as soon as the sun comes up, they pack and they get the fuck out of there. So his dad was convinced that somebody had just followed them onto the property and was playing a prank, and that's why they didn't see anything. And so he's like thinking that's what's scaring, that was what was scaring off all the wildlife, was this other person behind them. With their unmasked scent and like being on the ground. So while they were on the stand, they didn't see anything because this other person was around. Anyway, so he doesn't go back out there though, his dad. And then when he finally does, he mentions it to the guy who owned the property, and the guy's kind of looking at him like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Like that's not possible." Because the dad tells him his theory, like, "Hey, I think there was somebody on the property with us," and he's like, "No." The guy, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. The guy kind of looks at him like, you're fucking crazy because, like, we have a camera on the gate. The only people that we saw come up to the gate were you. There was never anybody else out there. It's completely fenced off. Like, we didn't find anything, like, any signs of, like, someone forced their way in on the fences or anything. So, like, no, it was just you guys out there. And then the writer goes on to say that the guy never let his dad hunt out there again, never really giving him a reason, but his dad was like, he must have thought I was fucking loony after that. Like, he was just like, fuck this guy. I don't fucking like this guy. He's crazy.
I like to think that's probably true. He was just like, honestly, I've been waiting for a reason to kick that fucking guy off my land for a long time, and he finally gave it to me.
And so the writer says that it is, maybe it was possible that someone followed them out there, but he says like they must have been fucking ninjas. Because they were out before daybreak, and they didn't run into anyone. But yeah, nobody but the owner was parked out there that morning. There were dead leaves and sticks everywhere, and when the laughing was coming from all around, they never heard any of them crack or any footsteps or anything. And to this day, they can't explain it, and it's fucking weird. Imagine that, just waking up and hearing laughter in the middle of the night.
You don't have to.
Why?
It happens. That's the thing I hear. Laughter is. That was
right.
a legitimate one. I'll
Crazy.
hear
My
laughter in the middle of the night. It's not a crazy.
I forgot you're a crazy person.
I just know it's not real.
Our next one, Mason, comes from Bystander 007 from Thought Catalog.
What is this Thought Catalog like THOT?
Yes, it's
Nice.
just a catalog of thoughts.
Honestly, that's a good. We should start a horror porn magazine called Thought Catalog, where it's like, you know how it's like people used to be like, I read Playboy for the articles.
Yeah.
But it's all articles like this mixed between like just like titties.
Yeah, titties. And then we have one for the girls, and it's
Oh yeah.
still just Thought Catalog, but it's our guy edition, and it's
I
scary
think
stories.
we maybe
but
don't
dicks.
even. I don't even think we separate the editions. I think
No,
we just,
there's
it's like
some pages there's dicks, some pages there's pussies. You know,
and it's gonna be confusing.
man. Now I really
It's
want
like,
this.
If you try to masturbate to it,
yeah. On
you
one
have
page,
to be. You either have to be open-minded.
but you
or
know
you
what?
have to
No,
be
that's the
willing
thing.
to take a gamble.
Is it'll weed out the bigots, and we don't
Well,
want
it's
them.
honestly,
we don't
it
want
is
them consuming our content anyway.
It's
So
the first buy porn magazine.
I kind of want this. That sounds. I would love to read a spooky story, and then there's titties on the next page. I would love
or
that.
a dick.
Or
Who knows?
Or a
That's
dick.
the thing. You
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
It's for goth bisexuals. Oh
Yes.
It's only for goth bisexuals.
If you would like to give us the money to start this, please send us an email.
we will start the Thought Catalog.
We'll start it. So, this next story comes from, what did I say his name was? Bystander 007 from Thought Catalog. And anyway, so he tells a story. Him and some friends, they're out there on this camper near the Dover Lights, which we actually covered in our Urban Legends series, Dover Lights in Arkansas. It's like these strange little orbs. They think scientists think it might be gas being released or whatever. Anyway, so they're already kind of at like a weird little spot. And it's not the fanciest campsite. But the guy that the campsite that they're at. It's this guy that like spends a lot of time out there, as much as like he's legally allowed, while he works, and he just kind of vacations in the woods half the year. He offers to let a friend of the writer watch the place while he goes to visit some family. So his friend like invites the writer and a bunch of other people to just have, a party and drink or whatever. And they're at this camper set up on this campsite. And so they're out there spending a couple days fishing, drinking, smoking, just fucking around. Again, sounds like a vibe. Please, if someone has a cabin in the California wilderness and wants to invite me to drink with them, I am more than willing.
Or
and
the
then I end
Iowa
up dead.
Wilderness.
Or in the Iowa wilderness,
I'll
too.
come to that one.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm like I love camping, but I feel like I'm probably less of a vibe than Jose because I get shit-faced camping all the time. Mm-hmm. So.
No, Mason is a fun person as well. Invite Mason. Well, anyway, so it's a pretty decent spot. They're having fun. And then one of their female friends gets super drunk, and she barges out of the camper in the middle of the night, like literally fucking butt-ass naked, to walk over to the campsite and eat, like, the beans that they had left over, or to the fire, you know what I mean?
That's who I'm camping with.
Yeah. No, that sounds fun.
I don't like how the writer of this worded it like she was an asshole or something.
Yeah.
If you're not doing that while camping, you're not camping. You're just being a dick.
Yeah. So
Okay,
he does sound.
camping is a time for us to shed the constructs of society, of polite society, and do whatever the fuck.
If
it
you're
is
out
that
there
you
doing
want.
nudist camping, please invite me. I would love to come along and just smear and eat beans with you guys.
There are no rules in the camping. We are returning to cavemen and women. And if you wanna,
That'll be me if you invite me to go.
if you
nudist
wanna
camping. I will
dangle
go,
beans and eat them at the same time, you're allowed to.
So anyway, so he follows her to
and
make sure she
just
doesn't hurt herself because
just because you're a conservation officer and you work for the park and there are children around doesn't mean
No,
you can come up to
Mason.
me while I'm camping and tell me I have to take my dick out of the pot of beans that I just cooked. They're my beans, they're my dick, this is my campsite. I paid the $14 for the 2 nights. So
wow, that was very passionate. Thank you for that. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
so the writer follows them out because he wants to make sure that they don't get hurt. Because everybody else just kind of laughed and was like, "Yeah, fuck this bitch," and then just let her run out into the woods. So he goes out there and he finds her. She's fucking getting him out of the pot, and she's just covered in beans, naked.
Hell yeah.
And he's trying to convince her to settle down, clean herself off, and then all of a sudden he says, like, while he's trying to talk to her, her head kind of shoots up like a deer, and she's looking at, like, glaring at the trees around them, and it's like pitch black. And he's like, "What the fuck are you looking at?" And then all of a sudden she like growls like a feral fucking animal and then just starts sprinting into the woods. And he's like, "What
Hell
the fuck is wrong with this girl?"
yes.
So he has no fucking idea what to do. He's freaking out.
Best
And
person to
he's
camp with.
completely lost sight of her.
You
and
follow her 'cause
he's
she's
like,
gonna protect
he's
you.
telling everyone, he's like, "Yo, she ran into the woods." And everyone's like, fucking crazy. And he's like, "Okay, I guess I'll be the fucking responsible one." And so he follows after her and he's calling out, nothing. About 5 meters into the complete darkness, he looks down because he sees a faint light, and it's a phone. And he picks it up, and he sees that it's in camera mode, and he clicks on it on the cameras, or the pictures, and he finds that there's pictures of him and his friends, just very recent pictures, all in like the night vision mode. And while looking at some of them, they look like they were taken from the window of the camper. And the last one is of the friend running directly towards the camera. So realization hits him of what just happened, and he starts deleting all the pictures, drops the phone, crushes it on a rock, and
weird
looks
move.
after his and books it after his friend, still trying to find her. He finally decides he can't find her, so he's like gonna go tell him, "Hey, like I found this or whatever. We need to go look for her." He goes back to the camper and he finds her passed out on a lawn chair, and so he carries her back inside, and then her boyfriend which I like that if the boyfriend didn't fucking care to go after her, but he towels
Yeah.
the boyfriend towels her off, and they both pass out.
It sounds like the writer's a bit of a simp, huh?
Oh yeah, definitely. I know this friend. I have this friend. Yeah. And
Okay. Hey, I agree that person that I've hung out with in real life is that guy.
yeah. So anyway, so this is the part that irks me about this story, because it's pretty strange and spooky. But then he says that he never told anybody what happened, and the friend didn't remember by morning, but that he did lock the door, and he was waking up like every hour just to keep an eye on things. I just feel like if I found a phone, if Mason, if you, me, Cheyenne, and other friends went camping, and I find a phone and somebody's been fucking taking pictures of us, I'm going to come back and say, hey, I found this fucking phone with pictures of us. I'm not going to be like, delete, break the phone. Like, be like, hey, there's an asshole out here taking pictures of us.
Yeah,
and the fact that he didn't mention it to anybody, I'm like, what the fuck, guy?
Also, how big of a hero is that lady that just was like fucking running you down?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's great.
She was doing the get out run right at the guy.
Yeah, the really weird thing. Yeah.
Anyway, our next one comes from JHFK from Thought Catalog. This person used to spend summers bouldering with friends. You know what bouldering is, right? Yeah.
So climbing boulders.
Climbing boulders for people that don't know. They would go to this relatively large forest. It was about an hour and a half away from where they lived. And they would spend, nights camping out there just to save, like, travel costs of having to, like, go in and out, basically. So they'd camp and then they'd go bouldering. Sure. And there was one time that they were out there where a friend had left all her climbing gear and her rucksack right outside her tent. And at least they were definitely sure that she had, right? Like, they all remember seeing her do that. The next morning, they found her boots, a few clothes, and all her chalk powder had just disappeared. And they were like, that's fucking weird, because we remember you set them next to your tent. So, like, where did they go? Well,
honestly, listen, I'm pretty sure most people who boulder for summers they don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I would just be like, oh, one of these other broke-ass weird hippie boulderers probably stole our shit. Yeah.
Well, anyway, so they just were like, you know what? Maybe you misplaced it. You're a dumbass, and you are always misplacing things. Anyway, and so they gaslight their friend. Anyway, so they don't read too much. They don't read too much into this, and then they just kind of like let it slide or whatever, and think maybe an animal took interest to it, whatever. So they fast forward a year. They're back out there in the same spot, setting by the tents, chilling, having some food. It's pitch black out, and the only like area is lit up by the fire. Anyway, so he goes somewhere out of sight to take a leak, and what does he see? There's a guy on the ground in a full-on fucking ghillie suit, just laying on his stomach, looking towards their campsite. And he stands there, and he's like fucking frozen, because he's like, whoa, what the fuck? And then I guess the dude must have like turned or something and clocks him, and he just stands up and bolts it out of there in a full fucking ghillie suit. And so he's like, I don't know if what happened the year before was related to this guy, but it definitely like seeing the guy in the ghillie suit, because he did tell his friend, like stuck with him, and they haven't gone back, which he's like is a damn shame, because it was a good fucking area, but they were all like weirded out enough that they were like, well, fuck that.
Honestly, ghillie suit guy sounds pretty fun. I like ghillie suit guy. I don't know. I mean,
our next story, Mason, comes from Soul Requiem, and it's from the Occult Museum. This person, they have this family cabin out in the middle of nowhere.
But shout out to, we're gonna give the shout out to him. Like, that's fucking,
yeah.
The fucking Flea, the bassist from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, who my mother was just reading his book and said that not only was his first band named The Captain's Log, but that he likes that name and thinks that another person should use it.
And so, here we are.
Flea, we're sorry we're not a band, but
give us some time.
If you wanna relive your youth, you are more than welcome to come on The Captain's Log.
Yes.
You're more than always invited.
Anyway, so they have this family cabin out in the middle of nowhere, kind of on a small lake with two other cabins, and it's surrounded by a bunch of forested area. About 2 miles away from the cabin and across this dirt road is a wilderness reserve. And as kids, they used to go walk through there all the time. So one day they're out there walking with their dad, I'm assuming the rider and his siblings are out there with their dad. And about 30 minutes after walking straight into the woods, there used to be this collection of abandoned houses, sort of like an old settlement. So about 30 minutes of walking straight into the woods, they come across this like settlement of abandoned houses, and for a second they're like, oh shit, maybe these houses aren't abandoned, and they get a little bit closer, but yeah, they see that like the vegetation has overgrown, nature's very much reclaiming this area. Some of the roofs are collapsed in. They go exploring, and they look around. And it seems like the people who used to live there maybe just had just up and left. Like in each house, there's still dishes on the table, like clothes in closets. The cars are probably all rusted out, like trappings for horses in the barns. In one house, the floor had caved in, and there were about 40 pairs of women's shoes just sort of scattered around a hole in the middle. No bones or anything, animal or human, so they weren't like freaked out. They were just like, oh, this is cool little history shit. So they decided to stay away from the second floor of houses because they're probably not structurally safe. So they find this sort of like skeletal tree house in the middle of a clearing. And they go back and they weren't with their parents at first. They found this, and then they go back and they tell their parents, and their dad's like, fuck yeah, I want to go see that. So he comes with them. In one of the houses, they find this bedroom, fully intact. The sheets were like still on the bed, and the pillow had the fucking indentation of a head on it. And they're like, that's fucking crazy that's been preserved. But because everything was like covered in a thick layer of dirt and dust, so they were like, no one's living here, because like, we can see our footsteps from coming in, and we didn't see any other footsteps. And at the foot of this bed, there's this huge, there's this big, like a gray fur coat, like really high quality fur coat, like real fur, and there's a few like moth holes in it, and it's just as dirty as everything. But when they inspected it, yeah, they knew it was real fur. And so their dad is like, because they're rich assholes, and they're like,
yeah, sure.
This is real fur. And their dad is like, you know what?
It's worth it because something died to have it.
Yeah. And so their dad decides, you know what? I'm gonna clean this up, and I'm gonna see if I can get it remade for your mom. And
Dad, gross.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Don't do that, Dad. Leave old shit. You
know what Mom would like more than that? Anything else?
Anything else?
A new coat. Yeah. Any
So-
type of coat that's not found in an abandoned house in the woods.
So as they're leaving, the rider gets a sort of like a chill on the back of his neck. And they're leaving. They're going out from the house. It's about 60 yards from the house. They turn around, and they see this old woman is standing in the window of the second floor of the home they were in. And she's just glaring at them. And she had her hair sort of in like a loose bun and was wearing this like blue shawl on her shoulders over it, like a cream-colored blouse. So they feel super guilty because they're like, oh, fuck, there's like this old woman living out here, and we just stole her fucking coat. So
Well, obviously, okay, if she's in the other house.
No, they'd left this house, and as they were walking, they looked back at the house that they had just been in. And in that house, in the second floor, they see this woman. Yeah. And so the rider goes up and he grabs his dad's attention. He's like, hey, Dad, look. And then points the lady out to the dad. And the dad's like, fuck. He's like, we just fucking stole from this old woman. So he feels bad that he's like, let's go back. Let's go give it to her. And so they figure, like, we must have scared her because we just walked into her fucking house. And she's probably pissed. So they turn around. They go back. They're approaching the house, but they see that the woman sort of like turns around and heads in. So they're thinking, oh, she's gonna come out to see us or whatever. So as they're approaching as they're approaching the house with the coat, the dad is walking. He's like, hey guy, they're like, hey, I'm so sorry we stole this. Like I'm sorry. Where do you want us to set this? Like, where do you want me to put this down or whatever? Do you want me to come in? Or are you gonna come out here? And then she doesn't come out. So she doesn't come out for a while, so the dad's like, you know what, I'm just going to go inside and give it to her. And
we've already been there once.
Yeah, fuck it. So he heads into the house, right? And as he's going in, the children are waiting outside, and they hear one of the windows from another house slam. And they fucking freak out, and their dad comes darting out of the house.
Oh,
and,
shit.
And
shit.
So the dad comes back and he's just like, let's go. And so they leave, right? And So they leave, and then once they get clear of the houses, they're kind of catching their breaths, and they're like, what happened? The dad is like, I went inside, I went upstairs, and there was nobody in there. And then as I was in the upstairs, I looked, and I saw the shadow of someone in one of the other houses slam one of the windows. And then he's like, and I heard a voice while I was inside say, get out. And so I fucking booked it out of there.
And leave the coat.
Leave my coat. It's a very expensive fur, they said. And so the dad like tells him that's why he left. And they decide that before they leave, they want to take one last look. And so they're sort of behind these trees, and they peek their head out. And when they peek their head out, they see the woman, they see the house in the distance, and they see the woman is at the window again. But now behind her is this very tall man. Like, much taller than her, much taller than the window. He has to, like, sort of crouch down to stare out the window. And he's got his hands on her shoulders, and he's like, you know, he's doing like a 90s...
stank face?
No, I'm just kidding. He's not doing that. But he's looking and peering at them. Both of them are glaring, and so they book it the fuck out of there. They never find out who those people were, if they were real. But, like, about 5 years later, the whole thing was demolished by the government because, you know, the fucking government. So they never found out about who those people were, if they were real, or if they weren't. And it's a little spooky dooky, I think.
Do you think that, like, I don't know. What? There were ghosts? Do you think there were ghosts? They were ghosts, right?
They were ghosts. I think they were ghosts. Yeah. The fact that the dad went to the house, didn't see the woman, and then she was there.
Nothing funnier than, like, that, like type of scared your dad gets.
Yep.
Where they're just like, time to go.
Whoa.
You know what I mean? Yep. Let's get out of here.
Go. Yep.
And you're just like, Dad, are you okay? And he's like, yep. Fine.
Ah, it's all right. Come on.
I mean, like, if your dad's, like, afraid of heights or anything, just, like, see him, like, on top, like, you know what I mean? At, like, the Grand Canyon or something, and him just like, no.
Yeah.
Fine. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
I just think I'm just gonna wait back in the car.
I don't need
to see it.
Have you seen the video?
It's a hole in the ground, right? It's like, Dad, can you stop? And he's like, I've seen it before. It's fine. Like, all right, okay, Dad, I get it. You don't have to say you're scared. You could though. And he's just like, I'm not scared. I've seen it before. It's time to go. I'm gonna get in the car. And then it's like, okay, well, we're gonna enjoy it. He's like, yep, take your time. And then he's just like sitting in the car, just like staring at you, and then like looking at his watch, and then you're just like, all right, I guess we're time to go.
Your dad's gonna listen to this episode and be like, "Why the fuck did
We've never been to the Grand Canyon. I just made that up. That's not a thing. But he is scared of snakes. And yeah, I guess actually he does do that constantly. Where I'll have like when I was a kid, I'd have like a snake, and it's just like, yeah, cool, don't bring it near me. Like, Dad, it's like a little snake, and he's like, yeah, I get it, it's fine. Just don't bring it near me. It's fine. Just they're not in the house. Just not in the house. It's just like, Dad, I don't understand. And he's just like, it's fine. I don't know what you don't understand. Just don't bring the snake near me. It's like, you're scared of snakes. It's like, no. I'm not.
I don't like snakes.
I just don't want to talk to him. It's like, oh, okay.
Have you seen the video of the kid who's his dad is scared of heights, and like the caption says like, when your dad is scared of heights, and they're driving, right? And like the kid moves the camera to the side, and there's like a huge drop off of the road, and he pans it back to the dad, and he goes, "We're pretty high up," and his dad is fucking clenching the steering wheel, and he goes, "Shut the fuck up, Andrew." I'll link it in the show notes. Everybody's got to see that fucking video. I love that video.
Yeah.
My dad is scared of roller coasters. And my whole childhood, he's never admitted it, but it's pretty fucking obvious because every time we'd go to the like carnival, I'd be like, my siblings were way too young to get on the rides with me, so I'd be like, Dad, let's go get on the like the fucking, you know, the Magic Mountain or whatever the fuck they're called.
Sure,
like
yeah.
And he'd be like, nope, I'm all right. I'd be like, come on, Dad, let's go. Why don't you ever get... one time I was like, why don't you ever get on rides? He's like, what's the point? He's like, I don't...
yes.
Waste of money. It's not even fun to me. It'll be over in a second. You're not even going to enjoy it.
Dads are so good at justifying their fears. You know, I mean, like, that was the same thing where he was just like, it's a snake. What are you going to do with it? It's not a dog. You can't pet it. It's like...
Yeah, and I was.
Like they're so good at quantifying and being like, no, I'm not stupid for being afraid of a thing.
Yeah.
You're stupid for liking it.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Well, and my dad always he would pressure me to get on roller coasters even though I was scared of them. But then he never fucking got on with me. He'd be like, come on, don't be a wuss, get on. And then I'd be like, why don't you get on with me? He's like, nah, I'm all right. I don't need it.
That's dumb.
That's dumb. Anyway, I don't really.
dumb.
It's gonna be over in a second. What's the point?
Well, yeah, because he didn't want you to be afraid of it like he is.
Yeah.
It's
He'd always be like, let's go play some skee ball instead. I'm like, I don't want to play skee ball. He's like, all right, okay, it's fine. I'll play that with you.
dumb.
Hey, I'll
I
do
didn't
that
know
with you.
you
I'll
were
shoot the
an
guns with
idiot.
you. I'll shoot the guns with you, but I'm not gonna get on. I'm not gonna get on a roller
You
coaster.
want to go squirt water into a clown's mouth until a balloon pops?
I'll do that shit any day.
Any day.
So this next one comes from TRXO Die from Thought Catalog, they started off by saying that this is a shorter story. They and a friend were out scoping an area for hiking because they were both sort of new to the area and they wanted to go hiking. It was around 6 p.m. in the wintertime though, so it was like completely dark. I don't know if like that. At least in Utah, it gets like that where it's like after 4, like it's fucking pitch black pretty much. And so they're driving down this dead-end dirt road to try to find a trailhead that they had heard about. And the road is probably like about 2 to 3 miles long. They don't see anything on their way down. They get to the dead end. They're like, fuck it. We can't find it. Let's just turn around. They turn around. They're heading back on the main road. About halfway from the dead end to the main road, their headlights illuminate a man standing at the edge of the dirt road. And he's he's in tattered clothes, just covered in dirt. And he just has a shovel. He's just fucking staring at them, like just glaring right at the car. Not even like, whoa, sorry. He's just cold fucking stare at them. And them and their friend kind of look at each other and they're like, what the fuck? Who is this guy? And he just sits there and they don't even like know what to do. They kind of stop the car and then the guy just goes into the woods and then they are like, fuck. And then they drive off and they get back into town and then like they don't say anything until they get back into town and they're like, you saw that, right? And they're like, yeah, I fucking saw that. I was sitting there with you. Like, and yeah,
I can't
it's
imagine
weird.
you and I just sitting there in the car looking at this guy and just sitting there and then just being like,
Yeah.
and putting it in reverse and just being like, cool. Like, not even in a rush, just being like, hey, you're going to keep an eye on him, right? Cool, because I got to reverse. Okay. And driving. Hey, you saw that guy in the woods,
Yeah, that was
right?
fucking crazy.
Fucking
Fuck was that? What was that?
Nuts, right?
What was
I
he
don't know.
digging? It's fucking dark. What's he digging? Why was he so dirty?
Did he put on his worst clothes because he had to dig that hole?
Did he put on his best clothes that then got ruined because of something that led to him digging that hole?
Do you think he was putting something in a hole, or do you think
he dug himself out of a hole?
'Cause
And
that
these
was-
assholes could have rescued him, and they didn't.
Right. That was my first thought too. Is
Yeah.
it sounds like this guy needs. It's like when Beatrix Kiddo from Kill Bill walks into the diner after punching herself out of the grave and just like, I'll have a glass of water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that thing of just like, are you okay? And he's just like, you wouldn't believe the night after happened.
Our next story comes from Shadow Handler from Thought Catalog. This is they themselves are like, this isn't really a strange encounter with anyone. It's just like sort of a weird thing that happened. But a couple of years ago, them and a friend were staying in this small cabin that their dad owned on a very remote piece of land in the Idaho wilderness. The nearest town was about 50 miles away, and the nearest active road that wasn't an old logging road was about 2 miles from the cabin. So him and the writer and their friend, they're sort of BSing, laughing in the cabin, fucking around in their bunks. And it was around midnight. They turned off the lantern. They were trying to fall asleep when they heard something that sounded like something had scraped the door. And they both sort of lift their heads up, and they're like, "Did you hear something?" And they're like, "Yeah," and they kind of laugh it off. And then as they're trying to go back to sleep in the middle of nowhere again, right, in the super remote cabin, someone starts knocking on the door. Not saying anything, just knocking. And they were both in their 30s at this point, but they were so scared shitless that they just didn't say anything to each other, and they just both sat up, looking at the door, listening. And they didn't go out there. They didn't walk up to the window or anything to investigate until it was light out again. The next morning, they didn't find anything near the door that would have tapped against it. There was no animal tracks. And to this day, they're just sort of freaked out by the whole experience because they can't explain it. It's just weird. Somebody randomly knocked.
I like to think it was the same guy with that shovel that's just like, man, I cannot catch a fucking break tonight, can I?
Yeah. He's like, God damn.
Really need some goddamn help.
I am in extreme duress.
I mean, look at me. It's rude to just yell at people. I thought I'd get their attention first, but every single time I knock on these assholes' doors, don't even answer.
Yeah.
And I fucking see those guys in the car, they just stare at me and drive away.
So our next one comes from SkierBoy07 from Reddit, and this is our final one. And so this comes from a wildland firefighter with the Forest Service. And this isn't his story, but it's a story that was told to him by an old supervisor that he completely believes, just the kind of guy that wouldn't bullshit, that didn't really tell stories like this, but just happen to have, those guys. Where, like, you're talking about spooky shit with your friend or whatever, and then guys, for me, it's as like an uncle or something that I'm like, they never care about the shit, and they're like, one time I'm pretty sure, like, they just tell you the most dark shit, and you're like, whoa, and they're like, I don't know what it was, though.
Like when you're talking about something scary, and then like you're like Vietnam vet.
Yeah.
Like a relative who never talks about it, just one day is like, I killed a man once, and you're like, I'm sorry, what the fuck? And you're like, yeah.
Yeah. See, my dad would always do that shit where, like, my mom and I would be talking about scary stories, or like my mom and her brothers or something, and then out of nowhere, my dad would just be like, one time I'm pretty sure I came face to face with the devil, and then he tells like this really harrowing fucking story, and he never talks about this stuff, and you're like, I'm not even sure he believes in the devil, and then he's like, anyway, yeah, good night. And I'm like, what the fuck, what?
And you guys just have to sit there like with like,
what?
Peeling the label off your beer cans and bottles, just like, oh man.
Oh fuck.
I didn't like that at
all. I didn't like that, and then you want to ask follow-up questions, and he's just like, nah, it's getting late. And I'm like, fuck. Yeah, man,
I
but
guess,
you just said, one time I'm pretty sure I stared right into the pits of hell, and I'm like, what? It's like, anyway, good night. I'm like, what?
Anyway, I just looked him dead in the eyes as I took his life, and the picture never leaves my head. I see it every night when I go to sleep.
Wow.
Speaking of which, good night, everybody.
Okay.
Go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead.
What?
You are just the last part, or like the whole story? You have a question about it? Oh, that's not a question. So I'm gonna go to bed.
Anyway, so it's a story told by him by a supervisor, and so it's around 2004. It's the Hell's Canyon area in the middle of Idaho, and this guy's crew had been working all day on this emerging fire. And they were going to be working through the night as well. And so the guy was assistant superintendent, which is like second in charge basically, and he was out ahead scouting on an ATV to see the extent of the fire. So he was, they were like already combating the fire. He was sent out to go see how far it was extending, and so he goes out.
Scout back out to main team. It's on fire.
Copy that. Is it pretty bad, or is it hot, or is it like, ow?
You ever seen a fire before?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like that.
Oh fuck. Okay. All right. Yeah, we should probably do something then. Oh fuck. It's like a firefight.
Time to fight it, and then he puts his hands up and he does that fight walk towards the fire because he's gonna fight it. Yeah,
that's how. God, I wish that's how it was. I wish the fire would take the form of a man, and then we could watch firefighters beat the fire up.
Then it would be like boxers, or like George, or like Floyd Mayweather would be like the Floyd Mayweather. He's like the bravest firefighter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And we're all tuning into there's a fucking fire in the hills in California or whatever. The fire sends out their best fighter. We send Floyd Mayweather. And
Mike Tyson
Floyd's
was the
in
hero,
there, Yeah, he's doing
the hero of 9/11 because he fought the fire off to get all those people out of those buildings.
But we're all watching. The fire's got fucking Floyd on the ropes. We're like, oh no, it's gonna spread. And then Floyd is just like, oh, and he knocks it out. And fire's gone.
Honestly, he doesn't hit that hard. It's his defense.
It's his defense. Anyway, so
and that is if firefighters actually fought fires by Mason and Jose.
So he's working his way down this old logging road. They clearly had not been used in fucking forever. When all of a sudden this bobcat or like a lynx, the writer isn't sure which one it was because it's been a couple years since he heard it. But this bobcat appears in the middle of the road, and it doesn't run away as they usually would. It just kind of stands there for like a good 10 seconds, and then it screams at him. But the thing that was interesting, that was particularly unsettling, was that it was like a fucking human. It wasn't like a regular screechy scream. It was like a human fucking scream coming from this bobcat. It screams at him for like 10 seconds, and then it scampers up the tree like 5 feet off the road, and then it just sits on a branch and it stares at him.
Oh no! That's what it did.
Oh, yeah.
That was
just
the
went,
bobcat.
Ah! Did like a
Deborah! Yeah, it was Ray Romano.
yeah, and so he's like weird, okay, but he's doesn't it's whatever. So he keeps driving half a mile or so down the road, and then he comes across a small cabin, which is odd because it's federal land, so there shouldn't be any private structures out there. So he's like, look, despite the fact that it's illegal or whatever, I still have to get whoever's in this. If someone's in this cabin, I have to tell them to get the fuck out of here because there's a fire and they're in danger.
Citizen. No such thing as federal land for a sovereign citizen. Just saying.
There's that Iowa spirit. And
Just saying. I mean, listen. All I'm saying is Ted Kaczynski.
No,
he had a lot of problematic ideas.
Oh no! Don't go down this road. So he goes up to investigate. Upon investigation, he sees that all the windows have been boarded up. They're shut tight, and whoever did this did a very good job of it. You can't see anything inside.
Sounds
The
like
doorknob.
He's sealing it off them from the fire.
Oh well, that's the story then. All right, guys.
Oh, you've heard this one before.
Oh, you've heard this one. So the doorknob though has been punched out, and the door. So that's like the only thing that it can see through, and the door is basically like being closed or like held closed by a chain with by a chain with a lock, and so like it's clear that whoever is staying at this place didn't want anyone getting in, or didn't want something to get out, and this is like he's fucking freaked at this point, and he's like, that's weird, and he looks inside and he finds that just like the strange looking furniture in there, and it looks kind of fucking weird, and he's like, yeah, I'm getting the fuck out of here, I'm getting back. So he gets on the ATV, he's heading back up the road, and right where the bobcat had been, there's now this Native American woman, and she's in this like really badly tattered nightgown. She's standing there barefoot and just staring at her. And he yells at her, and he's like, oh, ma'am, like, do you need help? And she just looks at him, and she just starts screaming. And it's like the same scream as the bobcat. And then, fucking strangely enough, she runs over to the same tree that the bobcat had climbed. And the bobcat's gone, by the way. And climbs up the tree and sits on the branch, perching, just like the bobcat had, staring at him.
Coincidence that we've never seen this lady and that bobcat in the same place at the same time?
No, there's no way. There's no way that she could be the bobcat. So anyway, but it freaks him out because like she climbs a tree way faster than any human should be climbing it. She's sitting there perched just like the fucking bobcat, staring at him, and he doesn't know what to do because he has to drive under the branch to get past her, and so he's like, I'm just gonna gun it. He drives down the road, he guns it right past her, and then once he's a little while ahead of her, he turns back, and she's just turned her head and is looking at the different direction now, at him. And he's like...
Well, I'm going to be honest, I feel a little silly for gunning it then, I guess, if she was just going to turn her head.
And he's like, well, fuck that, and he fucks out of there, he gets back, he tells the guys, and they're all like super interested, and they want to go investigate, but they're like, we have a fucking fire to fight. So that's going to take priority. They stay there, they ended up getting it under control, and... the next day he's at a bar, and he asks a local. He's a local at one of the bars who happens to be Native American, and he tells him about it. And the local tells him that what he saw is a pumawa, which is in fact a skin changer, a warg. When I first heard of this, I thought it could have been a skinwalker, but I guess a pumawa must be a different thing. But the writer is very
well, because the skinwalker is that a law? Is that across? That's specific to a single nation, right?
A skinwalker Yenaldushi is Navajo,
Right.
But it looks like
I'm guessing there's probably similar.
It looks like Pumawa might also be like the. It looks like it's linked to Skinwalker as well.
Gotcha. Oh,
So-
I'm guessing it's probably a different cultural take on a
Yeah.
similar phenomenon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it looks like maybe Punawa. It looks like could be another, but yeah, it's a changeling, right? A skin changer.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So that's what he tells him that's what he saw, and that the bobcat and the woman were one and the same. And then I guess there was locals who had also heard stories growing up about a woman who lived out there, and everyone just kind of stayed away from that land. But the writer makes the point that this guy wasn't one of those guys who goes around telling stories like this, and he'd only heard the story from him 2 times. That every time he told that he was completely serious about it, and that the writer believes 100% what this guy saw. The guy was never like, oh, I saw a skin changer, but it was like, this is what happened. I was told it was this. I don't know. It was fucking weird though, and it was one of those experiences that just stayed with him. And yeah. Anyway, it was pretty spooky. Do you have a scary wood story that you want to share, Mason?
I do.
Tell it.
I went camping with a buddy of mine one time, and we were over and we were in this spot. It's like it was kind of like up on a hill, and there's a little alcove from a big lake right down the hill from us. Mm-hmm. And we show up, and there's a kayak on the shore, on the opposite side of the shore. It's like a little, it's like a bay or whatever.
Yeah.
So we're like, okay, whatever, that's fine. So we set up camp and shit, and we immediately start drinking heavily.
Right.
And so we get there probably about 5. By like about 8 p.m. The sun's setting. It's not down yet, and we're both very, very drunk. And we're sitting there, and we're fucking around. We're pretty far away. We know there's other people there, but we're not super close to anybody. And then all of a sudden, we see a guy walking down the trail towards us, and we're like, okay, whatever. So like, we're like immediately like doing that, like sober up, like, okay, we got to talk to strangers now.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, you see anybody in that canoe? We're like, no, we've just seen the canoe. And he's like, okay, well, there's a guy, his wife and daughter, they came out, they went camping, and they got into a fight. And the guy just stormed off into the woods with the canoe. That was a few hours ago, and he's not been back. They haven't heard of him. He's not answering his phone. They're over at our camp. The wife and kid are at our camp now because they don't know what to do with him gone. Just curious. And we're like, do you need us to do something? And he's just like, nope. And we're like,
I just thought I'd shoot the shit for a little bit.
And so we're like, okay, that's fucking weird. Weird vibe killer, but we get it back. It's great. It's about fucking midnight now, and we're borderline passing out when we're sitting there around the fire. We can't see anything else. And we look off across to where it would be, and all we can see is a little light, like bobbing, pitch black, and I'm like,
Yeah.
and so we're like sitting there like staring as this guy, we can't see, again, we just see the little headlamp, gets in the canoe, rows over to the other side of the shore, which is right below us, and like just starts walking up the woods.
With the canoe or leaves the canoe?
We don't know because it was too dark.
Oh, gotcha.
But it was a thing of like, we were for sure that we were going to be interviewed by the police the next day because that guy went fucking missing in the woods and was going to be dead.
Yeah.
And I knew it too because I snapped a picture when we got there of our setup, the view. And you could see the canoe, and I could just imagine the 60 Minutes or like the, the unsolved mystery.
The missing 411, yeah.
Using that picture of it, of like the Ken Burnsing thing, of like the last image taken with his canoe like right in the middle, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I get to be in a true crime show.
Yeah.
But then he just came back, and then when he came back, we were like, is he going to come up to our fucking camp? And it was really weird, and it was dark, and then it was just like, what kind of fucking asshole leaves his wife and children scared in the woods and just fucks off in there for a long time? So I don't know if he actually got lost or what happened, but it was bizarre.
That's fucking weird.
I really thought. It wasn't like so it's not like a ghost thing. I was just sure.
No. Yeah. It's a strange encounter, right?
Well, we were gonna be like, we were just gonna experience a missing person who went missing in the woods.
And for me, I think what's often the creepiest thing is just encounters with people in nature are more unsettling than encounters with animals in nature. You know what I mean? Like, of course, I don't want to fucking run into a mountain lion, but I also don't want to be out in the middle of nowhere camping with some friends, extremely secluded from people, and then a random fucking guy is like,
Yeah, because this
Hey.
was pack-in camping, right? So it's
Yeah.
not like it's not like a bunch
Yeah.
of people in cars are right there. It's not super far in, and we were probably we were a decent distance away, but not like a crazy distance. Like we could run over to someone else's camp. But yeah, just to have him approach your campsite is just like, go away.
Yeah,
You know, like
get out
no,
of here. Yeah.
I don't want to do this.
Yeah, I've got one that I've got a couple, but I think the one that's most worth telling is one time I was hammocking up Payson Canyon in Utah with some buddies. So it was like how many of us were there? 5? I think there were 5 of us out there. Yeah, me and 5 of us. And I was actually with a friend of the log, Jesus, who's been on an episode. We were out there hammocking by this lake, Maple Lake, which I think I might have mentioned Maple Lake at some point. It was a really cool spot that I loved going to. It had like 2 murders or 2 deaths there within like the last couple years I spent in Utah. One was a murder-suicide kind of thing where like a guy had gone up with this girl and they were both going to kill themselves. But the guy was like, I want you to do it first so that I can see like what it's like or whatever. And then he just basically kind of assisted her in her suicide. And then he was like, yeah, I don't want to do that shit, and left her. And then it was a whole thing. And then the other death was a guy went up there to shoot himself, shot himself, bullet went out of him into his wife was standing behind him, into her neck, both died. Fucking insane.
That is
right?
bizarre. Yeah, I just love the guy just being like the chick dying, and he's just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yikes. No, not for me.
I made the wrong choice.
Oh, fuck, he says.
Yeah, it was the Romeo and Juliet thing of like, I'm gonna kill myself. I faked it. And then he's like, I'm gonna kill myself. I faked it too.
Yeah.
And then they're both dead.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, so that's like a little bit of the setting. So we were out there hammocking. It was like sort of around dusk, so it was getting late. It was like sun was going down pretty quick. And there's always cows up in that canyon because they just let them graze out there,
Sure,
and
cat
just a
canyons.
fucking herd of cows or a cattle. I don't even know what you call a group of cows. Anyway, they came.
Yeah, it's a herd of cattle.
They come down by the
You fucking stupid.
I'm a city slicker. They come down by the shoreline where we are, because we're hammocking right by the shoreline. They walk right past us. They go off into the woods, and I was like, whatever, cows. And
a group of pigs is called a hoggle.
cool.
That's,
You
I made
fucking
that up.
bumpkin. Anyway,
Completely made that up. Not true at
Oh,
all.
no?
I have no idea
That's
what
not
you
true?
call-
Oh.
No.
I would have
It could be,
believed you.
though.
I would have
Yeah.
believed you.
A hoggle.
And so we're sitting there, and at this point, I think it was us, and then some other guys on the shore a little bit down, and then straight across from us, there's this girl just sitting at a bench by herself, and that was weird because we were like, "Who the fuck?" I mean, whatever, you know. Sometimes you go up on the to the canyon by yourself. I've done that.
You ever think
But-
she was like, that group of guys that are hammocking over there is
Yeah,
fucking
maybe.
weird.
Well-
I don't know what hammocking is. Is that just where you put up a hammock and hang
Yeah.
out and then leave at the end, or do you like sleep
Yeah.
there?
No, yeah. For us, it was just like day hammocking, so we weren't staying overnight.
The idea of like, yeah, we just go out in the woods, fucking slang up some hammocks, bro.
Yeah, what do you mean?
Dude, we're fucking hammocking this weekend, man.
Yes,
You
it's so
go out,
fun. It's so
fucking
fun.
pop up some mocks.
Yeah, you're just
You know
fucking
what I mean?
chilling, yeah.
Now you're mocking, bro.
Fuck you, Mason.
Dude, I slanged some gnarly
you.
knit between an oak and a fern last weekend. It was
Fuck you,
fucking
Mason.
tight as shit.
Stop making
dude.
fun of me.
Oh, dude, it was so fucking
I'm sorry
sick.
that I have fun, Mason, and that I've got friends to have fun with. Anyway,
Absolutely fucking strung up some nylon.
are you gonna go?
dude.
Oh,
Sick.
you're gonna go string a hammock between all the corn stalks? Because you live in fucking Iowa. Fuck you.
We got
Anyway,
trees. We got trees here. You piece of shit. You know it. You've seen trees here. You got them. You motherfucker.
so we're sitting there, right? And so this is the weird part. Is the cows, they go past us. They go like around this ridge. We don't see them. And
You're like you could touch those cows.
when they first came by us, yeah, like they fucking
Okay.
just all
They
walked
they
past
like
us.
grazed through.
Yeah, they grazed through us, and
Sure,
then
I was just so I get a feel.
They
for it,
went.
yeah.
They went up around, they went around the lake, and then over this ridge. Like there was this sort of area where like the trail continued down, and then you were out of view, and they went
Right.
down that way to just keep grazing over there. So then those guys left, and it was just us and that girl sitting across the lake. She's just sitting there, and at this point, like, the sun has dipped, and it's just like the little bit of light is shining over the mountain, but it's like pretty much dark. And we're listening to music, shooting the shit, and then all of a sudden we hear this blood-curdling scream. And I think it might have been a mountain lion, I think. We hear this scream, and then it's followed by one of the cows, like, fucking, like it's being ripped apart, like screaming. You ever heard like a cow scream in pain?
Sure.
It's not fun, right? It's unsettling. So one of the cows starts screaming like that, and then the other cows start being like, moo, and like freaking out too. And so we like sit up and we're like, what the fuck? And then we hear the scream again, and we're like, something is attacking those cows. Like, fuck that. And so we start tearing shit down because we're like, whatever it is, we are not going to get involved.
Of course, that's the problem with hammocking, though, is how long it takes to
No,
get
it's actually
hammocks
super
out of those
quick.
trees.
Super quick. You just, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I guess I misunderstood how quick it was to tear down those hammocks. You
Anyway,
want to explain? To us?
but it was just weird, and
What kind of knot do you use?
fuck off. And and so we got out of there. But the strange part was, is as we were tearing down, the cows would have been like right on the ridge, right behind this girl, and this girl was just sitting there, like not phased at all by what she was hearing. Maybe she just wasn't a little baby like us, and she wasn't scared. Maybe she had some big
you
cojones.
think she was a little bit braver than the hammock gangs?
I'm gonna
than the hammock
I'm gonna
boys?
fuck you up, man. I'm gonna
You
tie
and
my
what
fucking
hammock, bro. Anytime.
I'm gonna hammock off your fucking neck.
I'd like to see you
I'm gonna
try.
hang you with my
need
hammock.
2 posts a hammock, stupid.
I'll do it to a tree in your neck.
It's weird that you were like, we're specifically going out into the nature to put it, it would be fine if it's like, we're gonna go out, we're gonna hike up to a place and put up like chairs or whatever, but the fact that you specifically are like, we are doing this to hammock and we're calling it hammocking is
What
the
do you,
thing
it's
that's
not weird,
to
Mason.
me.
You are the
It
only
is.
person. No one thinks this is weird. Just you. I'm sorry you've never
specifically-
fucking had fun. I don't know
Well,
what
it's
this
just like,
is.
it's just like, oh man,
Hammocking
yeah,
is way
no,
fun.
Brian,
what the fuck do you
I'm
mean?
really-
What
I'm
fucking
really-
guy is like, let's
Brian,
hike
I'm really
5 miles
sorry.
in and set up chairs?
I'm
That's
really sorry,
fucking
Brian.
loony.
I'm really sorry you can't come, but you don't have a hammock, and we're
Fuck
going
off.
hammocking. So if you
Fuck
came
everyone in
without
Utah
a
hammocks.
hammock,
People out
I'm
here
sorry,
hammock.
what?
Kids constantly hammock on my campus.
I'm not saying it's weird to put up a hammock or spend time in a hammock. I'm saying it's weird for a group of people to collectively be like, we're going out with the specific sole purpose of a hammock, and if you don't have a hammock, you don't get to come.
That's not weird. I know so many people that
That
do
is fucking, that's
It's
bonkers.
not. It's
absolutely bizarre.
No,
to be like,
Mason,
you're
it's
not
not.
invited if you don't have a hammock. Cause
No,
we're the hammock
we don't.
Club.
First off, we don't discriminate. If you don't have a hammock, it's fine. You can
Well, then
bring
you're
a
not
chair,
hammocking, though, if
or
you don't have a
usually
hammock,
we have
right?
an extra. But
Oh, so you're not hammocking?
what the fuck? Why are you? Fuck you! I didn't tear your story apart.
I'm not tearing your story apart at all. I think it's very scary and very spooky. I just,
Was that on your end or my end?
yeah, it was on me.
Oh, nice.
I'm not saying it's not scary or spooky. I really like the thing. What I can't get over is that you had to specifically do a whole thing about like we were hammocking, like we were. The
I didn't do a
hammock
whole thing.
boys.
All I said is we were hammocking. That's all I said. And you were
Right.
like, "Oh, fuck you!
Well,
fuck
it's-
you bitch!"
No. You made a conscious. That was a conscious choice. You could have said we were hanging out, but instead you
Because
specifically.
it's not weird.
you
It's only weird to you. This is
decided to make
this
the-
has
to
nothing to
make
do
a
with our
point.
episode.
You decided to make a point that you were hammocking, that you and 4 to 6 other friends were out in the woods, all in hammocks. Which means you have to logistically, you have to find enough trees to support everybody's hammocks in a
Yeah, it's a
comfortable
fucking
position
forest. There's lots of
in
trees,
a comfortable
pal.
enough position that you can sit and talk to each other and see each other. It's just there's a lot of stuff that goes into it that's way more difficult than you just brought a lawn chair and put a lawn chair out there.
It's not. It
And
really
honestly,
isn't.
I'm gonna put this out here right now. The comfort gained from hammocking, non-existent. Hammocks
what are you
not that comfortable.
talking about?
Hammocks aren't that comfortable.
I see what's happening here, Mason. You're
What's
not good at
happening?
hammocking. You're not good at
I'm not good
hammocking.
at hammocking?
You're not good at hammocking, and that's why you're shitting on hammocking. You probably
This
set up a
isn't-
fucking hammock like 2 inches off the ground, and it's all loose and weird, and you're like, oh, this isn't
The
comfortable.
fact that-
so
the fact
you're not
that-
good at it. That's
the
why.
fact that
or
you're admitting
or
the fact- no, no,
your
no.
friends
No, no, no.
exclude
The fact
you
that-
because
the
you
fa-
don't own a hammock.
The fact that
Is
you're
Cheyenne going
admitting-
hammocking with
the
other
fact
friends
that-
and you're
the
mad about
fact
it?
That you are admitting that you can be bad at fucking hammocking is
No, just you.
another reason why hammocking is fucking stupid. Just bring out a chair.
You want to go hammocking?
No.
You
I'll
don't
go.
wanna
You can bring a hammock, and I'm gonna bring a chair, and we can go out into the woods and drink if you want to do that.
Fuck you, Mason Schrader.
Fuck you,
Fuck
Jose.
you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you.
Fuck you. I don't want to do the. I quit. I quit the podcast.
Good. I'll get Nick.
Good.
I'll bring
Good.
Nick in.
Go get Nick, and you and Nick can slang your dumb fucking hammocks out there together all day long if you want. Hammocking is a nothing. It's stupid and useless. It's less efficient and less comfortable than a goddamn chair, and it's weird that you and a group of people decidedly chose to do it together. Specifically, it wasn't like we have hammocks, but we're going out there for a picnic. It's like we're going out there to spend time in a hammock. Is weird. That's weird.
You done?
Maybe.
I don't know why you can't just let me enjoy life, man.
Because hammocking is fucking stupid, that's why.
Well, anyway, thank you everybody for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We will be back next week with a main show episode where we will be taking a look at hammocking. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to be taking a look at Halloween murders. So, God damn it, what?
I'm sorry.
I don't care.
I'm sorry. I don't want to quit the podcast.
I'll think about it.
I don't want to quit the podcast. I'm sorry. Hammocking is super cool, and I'm just mad because nobody ever invites me to go hammocking. Okay. All right, I'm sorry. I just really want. You're right. I'm not good at it. It's always super. Sometimes my butt touches the ground when I hammock, and it's not even because I'm like fat or anything. It's just because I can't tie a hammock well, and I can never find trees that are the right distance apart. They're always too close or too far apart, and it's like
Hey,
either
buddy,
stretchy.
buddy. It's okay.
I'm just really sorry. I
It's
shouldn't
okay.
be such
Hey,
a mean.
no. It's fine. I understand.
It sounds really fun, and I just never get it. I would never know.
Hey,
because no one ever.
I will invite you the next
I
time I
went
go
hammocking
hammocking.
one time, and then everybody called me Saggy Hammock. They called me the Sag Hag, and then they said fuck you, you don't get to come, and then they never invited me hammocking again.
Well, those people aren't your friends, Mason.
No, they're not.
I'm your friend. I'll invite you hammocking, and I'll show you how to do it right.
Okay.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Goodbye, everybody.
Yeah, thank you everyone for listening. We'll be back, like I said, with a main show episode on Halloween murders, and the fun just continues here at Captain's Log. Check out all our socials and stuff, and our merch and whatever, and we will talk to you. We will talk at you next time. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Reach out to a friend. Invite them hammocking.